It's so voluminous. Every single file type imaginable: voice messages, text messages, pictures, videos, voice memos, WhatsApp messages. It's his complete digital life, really, for about a decade. And he was the sitting vice president's son at the time. And I started going through this, and first of all, the first idea I had was to go to sort of an established think tank that had put out a long-form report like this before. It's longer than the Moynihan Report, but that was really the vision for it. The Moynihan Report, as you all know, 1965, repeated truths that have been around since 2,000 years ago. Even pagans believed that you really needed a mom and a dad in the home, or things just going to descend into chaos. That was basically the Moynihan Report. And so the Moynihan Report was the vision for this dossier, and I know about a half a dozen of you have copies. If you want to hold it up, I don't have one with me because I'm putting it up on the screen right now. 644 pages, okay? And so I go to all these established think tanks, pitch them the idea. Luckily, I must not have done a good job or said something that offended them, which is a thing I do now and then. And they don't buy into the idea. And so I had to start my own group. And Linda here to my right, who's from your county, was one of those early people. She recognized how unbelievable this evidence is and got my vision right away about putting this in an academic setting that is absolutely irrefutable. And what does that mean? That means that we don't put in this report anything that we don't have at least two primary source pieces of evidence for. So there's no speculation. That's why Ian Sams and all these other paid liars on behalf of Joey in the White House never bring up the dossier, okay? Because there's no holes there. There's nothing. So they just bring up all these ridiculous ad hominem attacks, like I hate blacks and women and Jews. It's all ridiculous. Okay, that's all they got. There's a profile hit piece in the Washington Compost that came out 2 weeks ago about how I made fun of James Gillier, who's central in this entire deal, that I made fun of an Instagram picture she had. That's all they got. My God. And first of all, this is just the introduction. How we are going to take back the country, in my humble opinion, as Gary said, is we have to stop caring what those people think about us. Because there are Republicans on the Hill right now that know our stuff is unimpeachable, but they care about what the Washington Compost says about me, okay? And so I'm sort of like persona non grata amongst about 25% of the effeminate Republican class. So once they stop caring about what the Washington Compost thinks about them, they just stop. It literally, I do not care about what any of the lying press says. Once you have that, it frees your mind, right? You're no longer nervous in front of people. You can literally just speak the truth and not care about the ramifications. And part of that is because our group is grassroots funded. The average donation size is $45 per annum, and there are thousands of them, right? It's uncancelable. We've really hit an amazing model here that a lot of other nonprofits can follow in the future, right? There's no sugar daddy like Hunter has that if he turns that spigot, it's, game's over. So this group was established in 2021. It took us all of 18 months with the research and drafting phase of the report to write this 644-page document. And it doesn't contain everything that was in the laptop. For sort of a quick refresher, the president's second son, his lone remaining son, the first one tragically died of brain cancer on May 30th, 2015. He goes into a repair shop April 12th, 2019 in Wilmington, Delaware, drunk as a skunk and high on crack cocaine. He brings 3 laptops. 2 are beyond repair. The guy can't even extract anything on it. The third is able to be sort of salvaged, but it's a very slow process. And he has to drag and drop each file sequentially, and it takes hours and hours. Well, anyways, he gets this job done. He actually, and the guy at the time, who ironically, as God would have it, is legally blind, although he can definitely see. He's just, he can't drive or anything. As fate would have it, he thought that Hunter was bringing in the laptop, in part because his brother, as I mentioned, passed in 2015, and there were a lot of photos of the brother and Hunter on the device. So he was treating this very soberly and very discreetly. But after multiple attempts to reach out to Hunter and get the data that he extracted, he never came and picked it up. And the repair order that Hunter signed, it's been. I can even go to one of our 2020 footnotes. It's Hunter's signature. He signed the agreement. It said after 90 days, property left with the repair shop becomes the property of the owner. Now, and I'm going to go to Abby Lowell, who's Hunter's most talented sophist lawyer, and say that even if that agreement is held invalid under Delaware law, the Delaware state statute, and there's no federal statute for abandoned property, the Delaware state statute is 1 year. So we're in the clear either way, right? Which keeps Abby up at night, but hey, it's more billable hours for him. He believes nothing except Abby Lowell. So we're in the clear. It's totally abandoned. I am legally able to have this abandoned copy of a hard drive. Obviously, Hunter and his sugar brother Kevin Morris are suing us right now. They're going to lose. It'll be a tough loss. It'll be hard to swallow for them, and it'll take a while, and it'll be a war of attrition. And so we get in the middle of or the end really of 2022 in September, and we've done the research. Again, the dossier doesn't contain everything on the device, just the verifiable criminal activity. All right, so there's 3 big sections of the dossier. I'll start with the table of contents, and don't worry, I'm not going to go through all 644 pages. But I'm going to explain the rationale, so if you do not know who I am tonight, you'll get, what the why is for this, right? Even pagans like Simon Sinek recognize that people have got to understand why you're doing things before they'll buy in to and understand what the what is. So we go through this, and Linda here proofread every single one of the 179,000 words. She's one of our secret weapons. And for a couple of months, we lovingly argued amongst ourselves about how to lay all this out, right? You got 200 gigabytes of primary source material. Everything from sex videos and foot jobs to real stuff like Chinese business deals. Do we do it all chronologically? Do we do it when the laptop starts? The material starts in 2008, so when the first email comes through, and go to 2019, specifically March 17th, 2019? Or do we break it up in topic? And I sort of took the Solomon approach. We split the baby in that we did it topic-based, but within the topics, chronological. So this leads us to our table of contents. I know we're not even on page 1 yet, but the table of contents is obviously you see right here seven Roman numerals. But the big ones, the ones that matter, and they're in order of importance, by the way, because if somebody can't read all 644, we wanted to at least give them the business-related crimes. It goes business-related crimes, sex-related crimes, and drug-related crimes. Almost every single criminal violation could be theoretically fit within those 3. Okay? And so the business-related crimes, it's chronological by country. So what was the Biden business? And again, if you want more, I'm a total nerd, okay? So if you want more details, if you want more beef on the bones, go home and read every single line and footnote of this. Everything that I'm saying can be extrapolated upon and dug into deeper. I am simply here giving you the overview, right? So what was the Biden business? And a lot of Republicans are completely inarticulate, so you're not going to get that most of the time in Washington. The Biden business can be boiled down really into one thing. It was a RICO operation to commit FARA violations. That is essentially what Hunter was. He was a FARA violating machine. Hunter never stopped lobbying. He just stopped registering as one. When his daddy became the vice presidential nominee and Hussein selected him, the Hussein handlers were a little bit worried about Hunter, right? He was a loose cannon, got crack arrest in 1988, when he was 18. And just overall a very dumb person. But Bo was the chosen child, okay? And he couldn't do any of the scummy stuff. So Joey selected Hunter as the family bagman. Again, there are books written about what I'm saying right now. This is not even contested by people who hate me, right? Bo was the good child, the attorney general, the squeaky clean guy, for all intents and purposes. I mean, there's some stuff with the DuPonts we could go into, and I'd love to. But Hunter was the guy collecting the money. So how did this all go down? Foreign governments and foreign oligarchs who had problems that they believed certain officials within the U.S. government could take care of or at least help with, they approached Hunter in many forums through many connections. And then Hunter's job was either directly or indirectly to go to U.S. government officials and advocate those positions on behalf of the foreign principal. All right? FARA, written in 1938, been on books now for 85 years, was never enforced, really, until Paul Manafort. Mueller had nothing, so he started reading our statutes again, right? Or not even Mueller, because he can't even talk, really. Remember that hearing, right? He was just It was like he was having a stroke up there. So probably one of Mueller's assistants, Weissman, started actually reading the U.S. Code again and stumbled upon 22 U.S.C. 612, and it goes through all the elements of a FARA crime. There are certain exceptions, the legal exception, the commercial activity exception, but Hunter's almost entire email trove, let's be fair, a good majority of the business-related emails on the 128,000 email trove that we put online for free in May of 2022, that's another bee in their bonnet, they are about representing a foreign principal. And so once he represents a foreign principal without declaring that representation to the Justice Department, all of the money from that FARA violating activity can be seized. It's laundered money by definition. It's money derived from specified unlawful activity. And you'll see the Manafort indictment. They tried to take all of his houses, all of his cars, right? Because all of that money is illegally gotten. And so when the Republicans and other people who talk about these matters, when they pontificate, they leave out this specificity. They leave out the U.S. Code. They leave out what the name of the statute is. Because influence peddling, believe it or not, is still legal, right? Now, you can't have unregistered lobbying, but if as far as you go is saying that Joe Biden was an influence peddler, you need more meat on the bones, right? You need... If we're proving this, and I know that we're not prosecutors and we have no delusions of grandeur, we don't think somebody's going to bring in our dossier in the courtroom, although I was a witness for the mother of Hunter's child, which again made them lose their minds. We have proved things beyond a reasonable doubt to get over the standard of the lying press like Gary was talking about. Our standards are so much different than the lying press on the left, right? Of what they consider admissible evidence, correct? That we could have... L. Jean Camp, a very sort of unhappy lesbian professor at the Indiana University of Bloomington, Indiana, wrote pages upon pages about spoofed internet traffic between the Trump server and Alphabank. It was totally made up. It was spoofed. It was an email. It was like spam mail. Okay, it was like marketing for the Trump organization. She wrote a whole basically thesis about this spoofed data. We have every file type imaginable, right? But the lying press went whole hog into the Alphabank spoof data story. So the reason why I bring up those two contrasting, instances is to say, for us to put this type of thing out and for it to last, right? We wanted to write a document that is true in 50 years, in 100 years, in 150 years, whatever the case may be, whatever regime we're under then. Hopefully still the United States Constitution. And that's why I'm doing this ultimately. But we have to be more precise than the left because we don't have their propaganda apparatus. Okay? So that's the background. Create a report that stands the test of time, that is a group effort. Sure, I'm the lead author, but I couldn't have done it without my teammates. We have 2 private investigators, an attorney, digital forensics folks, and just a stable full of volunteers. We're doing it through distributed intelligence, right? So we're taking the methods and tools and resources of private investigative work and bringing it to corruption research. That is new in America. Fusion GPS tried to do it, but they just produce slop. Okay? And remember, Fusion GPS is actually taken seriously by a slice of this country, and they're taking on corporate clients. We're a C3, completely transparent, open tax returns. Right? So look at the double standard here. They'll cite Fusion GPS as legitimate research, right? And they got nothing. They didn't have one footnote in the Steele dossier. Remember the prostitutes peeing on him? It's ridiculous. It's laughable, right? That guy still is in public. Christopher Steele, he can still show his face. He'd be tarred and feathered by our founders. Yep. So going into the actual, so there's 55 pages of background. We were the first group in the Western world. This Wi-Fi here is a little bit laggy. Again, this is totally free to read. Our report is free to read online, marcopolusa.org. The reader view is keyword searchable, which is very important to me, because if you don't have OCR, if you don't have keyword searchable, it's really, really hard to navigate. I might run a hotspot, because if I am on your side of the table, I'm extremely frustrated when Wi-Fi is not fast. But I'm going to go to the family tree. We were the first group in the Western world. The Chinese have all of this, but we were the first group in the Western world to figure out that there are 2 unacknowledged females in the Biden family. You heard that right. Not just the 4-year-old down in Arkansas whose mother I got to know. There is a second one born to Frankie Biden, the president's youngest brother, by far the most pathetic. People come up to me all the time and ask, okay, what is the worst thing? Who is the worst person? It's the youngest baby brother, Frankie. You just read this guy's correspondence, right? Like, Frankie was 48 years old, drunk in a Blockbuster in southern Florida, and stuffed 2 DVDs down his pants. And his brother's a sitting U.S. Senator from Delaware. He's 48. That's just one small illustration of the people leading the country are on a halter, right? Completely incompetent. But they're perfect for the other bankrollers and people who control them, right? Because they're basically like cattle in that regard. Hopefully, like it says, I got 5G. The 4 families here. Linda knows exactly what I'm talking about. We took about a month on this graph. Here it is. Joey here in 1972, when he had a ton more brain cells. And again, I'm not even a Republican anymore. After the soft coup in 2020, I canceled my registration. So I say this with no partisan animosity. In fact, did you know this? Jumping around just a little bit, the spook letter that 51 intelligence agent, former intel people signed, more Republicans on that letter than Democrats. More Bush people. If you actually go and do the counting, we were the first group to find a picture of all of them. The New York Post took our pictures unattributed and put it on the front page. We have all this stuff like that should be front page, and they just take it and run with it. But you see the breakdown here of the family. This is all the people that Joey and his siblings have procreated with. Down here, Frankie, the youngest one, lives in South Florida now in a home owned by his in-laws. Again, no shame here. He has his oldest daughter, Megan, was not even on family obituaries. Okay, so we had 2, and I'm just giving you the full picture, the social aspect. This is all sociology at the end of the day, right? It's a criminal crime family, non-violent political mafia, but there's a ton of sociology packed into this. This girl, Megan Jester Walker, wasn't even acknowledged by the Biden family. That's something new and exclusive, as the media people say, in our dossier. And we go into her background, of course. We had somebody, Josh Boswell at the Daily Mail, go up to her house. She wants to talk to Boswell, but she was directed not to talk to the media. Okay, so whenever you hear that, the previous president was as licentious as every 24-year-old man in America with a type A personality, just know that there are literally unacknowledged people in the American First Family, meaning they don't want anything to do with them, and they're not even listed on obituaries. I bring up that example as a very good microcosm of what we've discovered. It's the first time I'm saying this publicly, but who loved our report was a former member of the Democratic Socialists of America group. And you know who he is? Obama's biographer, David Garrow. I sent him a one-page cover letter and a copy of our report. He sends me back a mini novel on email saying, this is exactly why I dug into Obama. Nobody had known about his background. They didn't even go to old girlfriends of his. Remember when he was elected? Nobody even knew him really at Columbia, right? We have no clue how this guy was. Well, Garrow got off his butt, took 6 years, and wrote a 1,600-page book and 4,000 footnotes. So when somebody who wrote 4,000 footnotes about Barack Hussein Obama says, hey, I love your dossier, I didn't know any of this, that's probably the biggest compliment I can receive, right? Because he's a former DSA member. And people of goodwill, actually the first line of the dossier not only cites as a footnote the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, but it says that over time, political hurdles to the truth will fall, and a lot of this stuff will be revealed. But contemporary political pressures prohibit a vast swath of the country from recognizing this, right? And so I can change that on the margin. That's why I'm going all across the nation, and meeting in all different types of venues. This is one of my favorites so far. Thank you for organizing this. But we have to, after I left the White House in January 18th, 2021, I thought there's 2 issues that really matter: election integrity and if the U.S. president's compromised. Now, I don't know much about the election system other than what happened in 2020, and I'm passionate about reform of it, but I don't know the ins and outs of it, and my passion doesn't align with it. And so I really thought, okay, if I want to work on the two biggest issues in America, what can I sink my teeth into? What can I dedicate the next 2 to 4 plus years to? And it's really this device. Because if the U.S. president is compromised, and we lay out in 600 pages that he is through his brother, son, even his wife, right? Linda and I just met with Jill's first husband today. It's a total mess, right? This is a total fiasco. He's the patriarch of a family of drunks and drug addicts.